Yes, as a note or so to the last recording, a few details. The bodies are interrelated. You can't have a physical body even maturing without the help of the existence of some sort of mental body that is starting to mature as well, and emotional state that's starting to know the difference between good and bad emotions, fear and hope and desire and so on. These are needed for the body to be in development. What I'm saying is that the communality, interrelationship of the bodies, the love of one body for another, and its help and support, interrelating, is necessary for the maturity of each body. Hence we are given a physical body because we need it for the maturity of our heavenly body, that we grow up in heaven and can be allowed our freedom because we become mature, able to be in heaven without destroying the place, damaging it, being a menace. So we're given a physical body, and we're given but these bodies are, I'm talking of them as if they're distinct, but they blend into each other. Imagine now, instead of there being just, say, I think I've got 7 bodies I've referred to, almost 8 if I include mental and causal being separate, but in fact there are many bodies. If you, a bit like the notion of the spine having many cogs, but now I would even say, well, even each cog is made up of different levels of body as well, bodies. And now I'm saying, well, in the best understanding, it's continuous. We have one body that's presenting a present from physical to God. There is a oneness, and a oneness with God already. We may be children, but He has it in hand, just as He had our physical creation in hand. All of our bodies are of His conception. We are the thoughts of God. So our bodies are interrelated to the extent of being a continuous merging of different layers of states, each blending into the other, each influencing the others. The welfare of all of the others turns on the welfare of each individual as well. And the individuals are blurred, multiples of bodies, if you like. I'm just saying that it's more like a continuous thing than separate 7 bodies that we look at distinctly. We jump from that one to that one to that one. No, it's not like that. It's a continuous merging of one to the other, and the different levels of our unitary whole affecting the other levels. So it's more like imagine an object being heated from below, the different levels of heat going up, or imagine an airstream where the hottest things are at the top and the cooler things are down on the ground, and the air gets hotter as you go further up. Heat rises. is hard to say, but continuous. Don't think of them, in fact, as that distinct. These 7 or so bodies, they are an infinite number of levels. But we can conceive of the distinct differences, so to speak, that major at each level. But they all affect each other. Everything has repercussions on the whole. Thank you, Dad. Look, I can say it's all thought, but thought is something that itself is, well, I don't think it's within our grasp at the minute. It's, perhaps it's in something that's in dimensions that's truly of God from our point of view. But since we're understanding ourselves as children of God, it is nonetheless fundamental to who we are. Because we're the same as God in a very less mature way, seeking maturity in his family. We don't grasp what dimensions that family is in, but we think of it in terms of family, in these dimensions that we are au fait with here in this life. Thank you, Dad. But the way that's been found reliable is to conceive of it in terms of the best as we understand it of this life. So God is our dad, we are his children. And it's that conception, truth, if you like, for our state of realization here, that is the best realization from the point of view of our welfare. Welfare not only in terms of being here in this universe, but in terms of the purpose for which this universe is. That's the trust, the hope, the understanding. So I choose to believe and trust in God as my loving, all-powerful, heavenly Dad. It's very simple, it's very childlike, and in some senses understood to be the best childlike state to be in, to choose to have. So we do. And taste and see, we see the benefit of such. Are such individuals that are truly doing so and purposing such, trusting that, choosing to trust that God is Dad, loving heavenly Dad, are they benefiting from such a view? Best guidance is taste and see. Try it earnestly. I say the way to try it is whatsoever's good and lovely around you, think on these things. Your pleasure will be in such, and your thankfulness will well up within you. You'll want to thank God for for such. Because you've not brought these goodnesses about yourself. The flower was there, the morning was there, the fresh air and the meal was there. I mean, you may have helped in that you worked hard to earn the money, don't get me wrong, but or you may have just been blessed by mum and dad giving it to you. But do you see the gratitude will give you hope and joy and peace? These are all spiritual qualities that help every part of your many bodies to mature and cooperate with each other and bring you into a harmony. These spiritual qualities of hope, peace, joy, creativity, empathy, compassion, grace, and so on. Everything you value comes from this state of thankfulness. So you practice saying, thank you, God, for ... and thinking on the goodness of such. And you're blessed by this thanks and praise of God. It's very simple, it's very elementary. It's incredibly effective in bringing about your welfare, which is you're not interested in proof. You're interested in what works. What works is a greater thing than proof. To you, of greater value. I might not be able to prove it, but I'm benefiting from it. That's what matters. So I'm doing it. Do you see? So you're going to practice thankfulness. I recommend to you. Taste and see. See if your world, your life becomes wonderful. It doesn't matter whether you understand theology or understanding or my last recording. What matters is if you see God as your dad or not. That makes all the difference in the universe of universes of universes. It's ultimate. Wonderful gift to us. Probably because he loves us. It certainly has the hallmark of that on it. Bless you. Thank you, Dad. I should say that the almost novelty of these things, the language is not distinct. I mean, I talk about heavenly body. I'm really thinking the heavenly side being the nirvanic. You know, I'm coming from the view of heaven being a family of cooperation and loving help and fellowship. It's the love ultimately focused on the oneness of God. Hence, the first commandment, the first principle of life is, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, mind, and strength. That this encompasses, defines a foundation principle that's so necessary, that's being itself developed in you. It's coming about. It's been coming about since time began, in your individuality and your maturity as such for the kingdom of heaven. The language and the conception is of distinct bodies and layers and names and of such, and how they interact with each other. But the reality is a much greater fluidity of one blending into the other, and interrelatedness of all with the all. Everything's interrelated. You see it in the universe. Everything affects everything else. It all has repercussions, rippling out to all else. Change one thing and you change the future of the entire universe. If you could think of changing it from the outside, you see. From the point of view of this universe, we conceive of God as changing it from the outside. But actually he's made it in such a way that it matures itself. Ideally. He will interfere, if you like, interrupt in it, if you really ask, because he is wanting you to be an independent creator too. So he gives expression to your training of becoming godlike him. We're maturing, you see. All life is maturing. And by maturing we mean coming from a chaotic state to his magnificent state, if you like, in our conception. The conception is useful. I don't mean it has some fundamental right. I'm saying it's useful in that it brings about what we might more generally call our ultimate welfare. These are conceptions, meaningful in the universe that we live in, like talking about bodies and so on. But obviously the nirvanic body and the emotional body and so on, they're not tangible bodies in the sense that the physical body is. But I'm using the jargon of body to give some feel or intuitive grasp of such. And you wouldn't have any meaning to language unless you had this intuitive body yourself, developed to some extent to be able to handle language. Language in itself is not concrete. It's something that simply is the way we use it, a bit like money. I go into a shop and the money's effective in getting the goods I want. It's because the shopkeeper has some notion that the value is going to be of value to him. And so he's willing to give the goods in return. It's an astonishing consequence of the trade. It's an astonishing consequence of belief system that's validated by the fact that other people have the same belief system. Otherwise the money's pointless. I go into another shop with the money and he says, oh, I don't want that, I'm not interested in that. I only take dollars or something, you know, American dollars, not New Zealand dollars. Oh, that's tricky. How do I get those? Do you see, it's the ultimate meaning is implied by language. Not that language has ultimate meaning in itself. It's just a means to an end. Don't worship the words. But do take encouragement from what it stimulates in you to practice, that you taste and see that the Lord is good, that choosing to trust in God is a blessing. If you trust in a God that has the following values, and you may need to polish up what those values are, that they're not quite what you thought, and you'll find that out by your practice of what you have at the minute, and you'll grow. The child grows for himself. He doesn't have to worry about putting on an extra millimetre today. It just happens from his ideal living, which is the growth of these bodies, if you like, as we're understanding it here simultaneously. Look, it's like a theory. There's nothing ultimate about this theory that I'm presenting, so to speak, in the last recording. It's just a case of, is this a blessing to you? Do you find this useful? I'm suggesting, of course, that you'll find it more useful than anything else. But actually, I'm also suggesting that it's not anything like as effective if you just think about it. But if you practice thankfulness, my goodness, that seems to have an astonishing effect on your welfare. Taste and see. Thank you, Dad. I was going to say, I just can't believe it. The notes alone have taken half the length of the last recording. Time just flies when I'm fully involved. That's the same for all of us, isn't it? The holiday just rushes by if it's a super holiday. You're going to need eternity to really value heaven. Isn't that lovely? Bless you. Thank you, Dad. So to add to this note, think of the love of God is the perfection of the nirvanic, which feeds down the nirvanic levels to loving individuals, wife, mum, children, friends, family, neighbours, and the perfection of the nirvanic is the love of God, because God does love all, and he loves all the bodies within you, all of you. All the way down, he's caring for all. The perfection of the physical body is thankfulness, the noticing of all that's good. And that's what incarnation is about, having what we think of at the physical level. The epitome of a good incarnation is the physical activity of seeing, hearing, thinking, thankfulness for the physical. This thankfulness at the emotional level feeds into it, which gives gratitude. You feel at the emotional level gratitude. This gratitude at the mental level gives you a peace of mind, a stability in which you're able to be rational, constant in thought, in goals. You prioritize correctly. You're a great thinker. The great thinker helps the perfection we just look at the next level within it, the causal level, your creativity, you become more and more creative. Cumulatively adds up to helping in the perfection of the next body, which is intuitive imagination, your ability to receive thoughts which are from God as I understand it. Your enlightenment as a Buddha, if you like, is that you have access to the mind of God, and the perfection of it is full access to the library, the Akashic record. You start to build into the perfection of the next body up, the nirvanic. You start to value the importance of others. Your ego starts to expand now. It's beyond, it's the dimension, if you like, or the mode beyond the Buddhic. Not just the access to God's mind, if you like, memory, but also what others mean in terms of being relevant to you is now that there is a love building up, a great concern for others because they are your greatest self that's affecting what you saw before as your narrow self. So the lower nirvanic is this fantastic potential increase in ego, which you might just get flashes of it early on in the development stage where you just fall in love with one or two people and you feel love for one or two of the parents, or it's partial, but it develops into a perfection of love for all people and all life. And of course the ultimate of that is you realize, goodness, this is feeding into an appreciation of God that increasingly all is developing towards the perfection of the nirvanic stage, which is realizing a devotion to God. And the final stage of such would be, I'm He, Blessed Spirit, I am He. But I hesitate to take that step because of the great state of fellowship. It's like the mum whose kids are grown up, but I'm living in this adult family maturity now, but I still want children as well. Because you see, there's a great love at this God level for not just like the causal creating things, but more of myself more of my family, more of the adult children, not losing them completely in myself. You see, God loves family. He's drawn back from a oneness to a state of appreciating family, that he may appreciate his oneness, not being alone in such, for he can hold at the situation of having a family as well, so to speak. In other words, he can hold at a situation of perfection at that stage, as well as his own stage of perfection of oneness, just as he can hold at the Buddhic enlightenment stage of knowing all things. Intuitively, or at the other stages, he can appreciate perfection of all the stages or all the dimensions. Really, the seven are not so much stages as dimensions. They're stages in the sense that the upper ones, as we rank them, take longer to maturity. They need the maturity of the other stages. But the other stages need great help from the higher stages. You know, at the physical level, you need health, functionality. And this is not helped if you have no emotional stability at all, or no mental understanding. I mean, in other words, the physical creation cannot exist without the higher. And in that sense, the others are higher. If we're thinking that there are 7 levels that we're distinguishing, then those below the top one cannot exist without the top one being in existence. So you can live just in the higher levels without the lower, but you can't be and exist in the lower levels with none of the higher. Something like that is what I want to say. My Buddhic level's not developed enough yet to say it clearly to us. Which means I'm waiting on a greater development of the nirvanic level to be clear on what my enlightenment is, the perfection in that level. So we're often finding that the lower levels are still being developed, and to do that we withhold. When we enter into a physical level, we unload some of our upper selves, that we may be able to focus in the physical level on what's needed there to be improved. And the achieving of that narrow view, the maturity in that level, feeds through into our upper levels, enabling them to be perfected. In a sense, my conception is not good yet. My imagination's not fully developed. My enlightenment's not fully developed. And that's why I'm experiencing having lower bodies like mental and emotional and physical. I'm practicing having a limitation of the upper bodies whilst I have these lower bodies, that I may sort out something at those levels that will feed through and be a blessing to my actual individuality with God. And that's why I'm going through this process of having the lower bodies. It's because something needs to be done at each of those stages for the benefit of my upper nirvanic state. In particular, this fellowship with God, family situation. I'm seeking a maturity there, and to have that I'm experiencing the lower bodies, right down to the physical perhaps. When I finish clearing up the physical, I no longer reincarnate physically, but I remain incarnate at the emotional until everything that can be learnt there is sorted. And then I retreat from that into nothing lower than the mental and causal, and I work my way up until I'm at a mature adult state. So I don't reincarnate at the lower states unless I simply wish to come to, unless I'm sent to help down there others that are maturing at that point. I'm already mature at that point, perhaps. Then you would say I'm an avatar come down. But they won't be mature enough to recognize me as an avatar. They'll make all sorts of mistakes as to who's an avatar. But some will be blessed, some will have ears to hear. Some of those that are stuck working out the stage they're in. I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you, Dad.